So from memory, we start talking about how we acquire knowledge and skills and use that to move forward in the building blocks of our students' progress. So when we talk about acquiring knowledge, we use this process starting from memorization through understanding and into concept learning. So what that means is memorization, that's that very base level. That's at face value, memorizing facts, figures, limits, tables, maneuver descriptions. But a student who has just memorized this information is not necessarily ready to apply it. And more importantly, it doesn't necessarily understand it. So it's moving from that memorization to that level of understanding. Memorizing, say, the SAR script, as well as the standard SAR procedures, being able to recite them from NATOPS, and then moving into being able to understand how are they applied, where do they fit in, when should you make them, for calls that are maybe as required, when are they required. Whereas concept learning is being able to take that understanding and apply those same principles in another similar but not necessarily exactly the same situation. In this case, maybe a cast and recovery type operation. Not exactly the same as SAR, but a lot of overlapping concepts. And so if your student has kind of made that journey from just memorizing the procedures to understanding how they fit in into that level of concept learning where they're able to take that and apply it to a new situation, such as cast and recovery, and see kind of where things fit in without even necessarily having to be told specifically, how to do procedures for it. You're going to take a look at it and say, oh, okay, I know how I could get this done. And that could then translate even into something like mine pounce, right? Where you're deploying EOD and they're headed out to do a mine neutralization. And while that is not at all search and rescue, it has a lot of similar concepts for how you deploy swimmers from the aircraft and recover them back to the aircraft. Skills, on the other hand, acquiring skills is a little bit different from acquiring knowledge. Acquiring skills, this is more kind of your physical skills, your skills of execution, whether that's setting up, cockpit setup, weapons delivery, hands-on physical flying. In this case, we talk about a cognitive stage, an associative stage, and an automatic response stage. So that cognitive stage is a student able to perform a rote execution of procedures. There's the prescriptive outline of how to execute the procedure from the pub, and they're able to just do it exactly as described. And that might be setting the nose up, 8 to 10 degrees, reducing collective to a 300 foot per minute rate of descent, whatever it might be, but they're just doing that. They don't necessarily understand what it's going to produce, how it's going to turn out. That's that next stage that you're building to, that associative stage, where students are able to associate specific actions with likely outcomes. So that's where we're talking about a student being able to understand, say, on a landing approach, how variations in their nose-up attitude affects their deceleration based on different wind effects. So the more headwind component you have, the less nose-up attitude you'd want in order to maintain the same relative rate of deceleration because of that wind effect. That cognitive stage student, they just know the procedure, they're gonna set whatever nose-up attitude was recommended from the pub every time, and they, that high wind velocity, they may get hung up in a hover before they land, or they may end up executing some type of a wave off because they're not able to associate different types of actions with their likely outcomes. And then you're really trying to build towards that automatic response stage, and that's where the student is able to perform basic physical tasks without devoting attention. And as an instructor, while you might not think specifically, oh, I'm in the automatic response stage for this maneuver or that maneuver, it's not hard for you to think about specific things you do in the aircraft and realize how you're really able to do them, particularly whether certain flight maneuvers or positioning the aircraft in a way that really doesn't require your focused attention. You're able to make the aircraft do what you want it to do almost unconsciously, and that is that automatic response stage where you not only understand the procedures, you can associate how different types of actions will produce different types of outcomes, and then you're able to do that so fluidly. You don't necessarily think about the inputs that you're putting in. You're taking information from the scene or the scenario around you, and you're automatically putting in inputs that are appropriate for that without even putting conscious effort into it.